right. Happy Sunday and happy Memorial Day. We're going to start our service today with a duet music by Eric Satie in memory of many, many people who have helped us become what we are today. So we're going to play a piece by Eric Satie. You'll undoubtedly be somewhat familiar with it. Harp and piano, here we go.
Jeffrey Oshman, Mary Radspinner. That gorgeous music. I'm Jesse Jennings. Welcome to Creative Life Spiritual Center. I was jokingly calling it KCLC for a while until I was told by one of you there is a KCLC. So, we are online for now. We will reopen soon to an in-person congregation, and we can't wait. And I'll tell you now, and I'll tell you more about this going along in weeks to come. But when we do reopen and we do have an in-person congregation, I want the people who have been working here for these 15 months on Sunday to come up on this stage and just stand here and take your applause. Because it is huge what they have done for all of us. So today is the 5th in an installment on the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment. Release. And it's Memorial Day. And it's a time when we give thanks for and memorialize the soldiers and the sailors and the aviators and the Marines who paid the ultimate price, made the ultimate sacrifice in defending freedom in this country and around the world. And this year, it does not at all detract from that sentiment to include the first responders and the frontline workers and the doctors and the nurses and the technicians and everyone who has served so valiantly during the COVID pandemic. And let us remember the countless numbers of people who've passed because of COVID and related illnesses. And let us remember the people in our own families and workplaces. And let us remember the people of this center, because we've lost several. And let us remember 100 years ago, the Greenwood Massacre in Tulsa. And let us remember 1 year ago, George Floyd. So many losses. So much trauma, so much release. But there's a beauty to it in the love that we have, that we're still standing, that we're able to be the ones who offer the tribute, that we're able to be the ones who find the words, that holes in our hearts are never filled, but something grows around them to contain them. The losses that you and I have experienced in life, they're never replaceable. Nobody takes the place of anyone else in this life, in the parade of life through this world. But something happens to give us the strength. Something happens, whether it's the passage of time or the cycles of nature. And I'm thinking too that I want to add to the people, to the groups of people that we memorialize who've left. The people who left they're still not sure how many, but the Texans who departed this life in the winter storm around Valentine's Day. This is release. And it's a lesson that we learn in release. And the other 4 steps that I've been talking about this month, they all may seem new and different, and action steps that you take from a kind of a sitting down place. You stand up and you go do something. But by the time I get to talking about this, you know about release. You have let people go from your life. We've lost family members in just this past year. And release is not always about mortality. It's not always about death, because people change. People get up and move. People leave home, leave the empty nest behind, you know. The next time you see somebody, they're not who and how they were, and you have to release the image that you have of them. When I came in here this morning, he doesn't know I'm going to say this, but Sean Connolly was here, who's going to join us on the stage when this group takes their bows for what they've done for this place this past year. Sean is our maintenance guru. And he came in, and I was brushing my hair because I was about to go on camera. And he said something to me along the lines of, "Is that really necessary?" And then I think he was concerned he might have hurt my feelings or something, because he kind of tried to walk it back. Just, you could tell from his face, you know. And I told him, I said, "It's muscle memory. You know, well, you release how you looked. You release the ages that you were." There was an item in the news. It's 25 things that baby boomers should stop doing because it makes them look old. And it basically went through my wardrobe, item by item. Don't wear this, you know. So we release stages of time. We release the cycles of nature, the seasons. I mentioned the freeze around Valentine's Day. It was less than a month, and we're back here and, you know, noticing that what we had basically given up on was green again, was sprouting. New things were coming. A few things didn't make it past, but most things did. And you look in another 6 months, another year, you can't really tell. You can't really tell. There was a terrible freeze here. And, you know, this is how life heals itself. You know biologically that in your body right now there are all kinds of healing elements at work. You know that if you, for example, nick your finger or something, that healing agencies mobilize inside the body, the blood clotting enzymes, vitamins, vitamin K, I guess, all begin to move to that place. When there's an organ or action or function in you that's underperforming, then other parts of you, other senses pick up the slack. People who have difficulty with their vision or their hearing, they find that other receptive senses like that come in and pick up where that one left off and give them the same information. I read a thing some years ago about a man who had gone unsighted and at an early age, could have been born unsighted, but he was able to visualize rain with his hearing. Because when rain falls, it falls on different surfaces. And it could create, and did create in his brain, a three-dimensional model. So you could put him out in his garden, for example, and he would be able to tell that there was a table, you know, and then a chair, and then this. He might not know exactly what it was, but he'd know how high it stood in relation to the other things. It's amazing to me, the functions that we have. So where I'm going with all this is release is going to happen whether you want it to or not. So you might as well go along with it and trust. And all these people that we love who've left this life, we have released them to what? To what? That's the big question. In fact, that's the question on which much of religion in the world hinges. Is what comes after all of this, and what do I have to do to be ready? Our belief in this teaching, or our teaching in this teaching, I can't say it's everyone's belief, it's my belief, but is that we go on in fullness and greatness, that life is an upward spiral, forever and ever expanding, as Ernest Holmes put it. And so we go on and we do what we love, and more of it, maybe with more freedom, maybe not in a body that's subject to aging, and we thrive in this new form. Gavin Mcleod passed away yesterday, I think it was. The Love Boat captain, you know. Some of us grew up watching his stuff. He was in a lot of movies. He was in McHale's Navy originally, way, way back. But he's known, too, for the Mary Tyler Moore Show. And so when they went around, they talked to Ed Asner. Ed Asner was Lou Grant, you know, Mary's boss, this crusty guy in Hollywood. Well, he's heartbroken because they were friends for, I don't know, 60 years or so. And so Asner says, well, Betty White, you and I are the only two left from the cast. And soon, you know, they're both in their 90s. He says, soon we'll be joining the others. And this is what he has in mind. A cast reunion, like the Friends one the other night, but on the other side. A cast reunion. They'll all get together. And what do? I assume they'll act, because that's what they like to do. And they'll sit around and they'll do a table read of scripts, you know, and then they'll get up and go to costume. And this is what, or they'll paint, or they'll sing, or they'll sit and just stare out at the beauties of the next life for a while they get it together and figure out what they want to do. But that's my story. See, this is what I'm putting on them. And it's apparently what Ed Asner's putting on. This is what comes after. And so he's got a lot of faith there. So the last thing I'd want to do, no matter how I felt, is go up to Ed Asner and say, no, that's not going to happen. It's just lights out. Boom, you're never going to see any of these people again. When you're dead, you're dead. I don't believe that. I don't think we learn all of this. Do all of these things. Perfect ourselves. I don't care how old you are, you're still perfecting yourself, right? You're learning what works and what doesn't work. You're learning how to be with other people. And I don't think we work out all of this stuff just to have the lights go out. But that's just my story. So it's faith. It's faith. You can have fear, you can have faith. You can have a mixture of the two, but typically one or the other wins out. The faith that says that there's more than this. So, in spiritual practice, in spiritual mind treatment, the last of the 5 steps is release. And it's an active step. You deliberately release. You almost ritualize release. In the Western world, a word that we use a lot for that is amen or amen. And it comes from the Hebrew, meaning certainty or certainly. It passes through a few languages before it gets to us, but that's what it alludes to, is certainly. And so you say, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. You go through the Lord's Prayer, you come to the end of it, you say amen. Certainly. Certainly. There is one life, that life is God, that life is all the life there is, that life is my life right now. Therefore I speak my word about this condition, that circumstance, that attribute of spirit now manifesting in my life. I feel it, I'm grateful for it, and I let it go, and so it is. Okay? And so it is another way of saying amen. But it's not just etiquette, you know? It's not just like you got to end a sentence with a period. It's an actual deliberate step of releasing the thing. So, if we release people out of this world, from the world that we know into the world to come, and we don't know what that looks like, and we make up a story about it, what is it that we're releasing our word into when we come to the 5th step of spiritual mind treatment? That's a little easier to describe, but it still involves a leap of faith. What we're releasing it into is the subconscious. See, as we've talked about off and on throughout the 5 weeks, there's the conscious aspect of mind and the subconscious aspect of mind. And the conscious is your individuality, your personality, your story, your take on things, your uniqueness as a person. You're not like anybody else. You know that? You're not like any. Oh, sure, you share attributes in common with other people, but you're a standalone being. And so somebody says, hey, listen to this song or look at this painting or this sunset or whatever. You have a reaction to that. It's unlike anybody else's. That's your conscious processing. You also make choices. You decide how you want your life to look. You decide what to do next. All of that's on the conscious side. And that's where a lot of attention gets paid. Most of our attention in the world, in the culture, gets paid to that. And some call it, and I like this, they call it the sunlit side. The daytime side. See the moon the other night? It's kind of cloudy, but there are pictures, you know. Well, the sunlit side is the conscious mind, and the conscious mind thinks that it's the only mind there is. It can be easily compared to or confused with the ego. The ego is not exactly the conscious mind. It's a position that you adopt in conscious mind. But anyway, you know, the conscious mind thinks, I can figure all of this stuff out. So when it can't figure something out, like, for example, what comes after this life, it gets kind of scrambled. It gets unnerved, you know. Well, less attention typically has been paid to the subconscious mind. But the subconscious mind, or aspect of mind, see, there's one mind, but they have two aspects, like day and night, you know. The nighttime mind, the moonlit mind, the subconscious mind, is actually what does the creating. Because here at the conscious level, I'm choosing something, but I don't know where to find it. But the subconscious knows where to find it. The subconscious mind is like directory assistance to the universe. I'd love a new job, but I have no idea where it is. I'd love to meet somebody and fall in love, but I have no idea where they are. I'd love to know what to do next, or how to face this problem, or, you know, how to be in this world, how to forgive, how to move on. But I don't know how to do that. Well, there's an app for that. There's a manual for that. There's infinite intelligence for that exists at the subconscious, subjective level. And whenever I come in here and I hear this music like they did this morning, you know, the Eric Satie piece that Mary and Jeffrey began with, you know, I think Eric Satie would be so pleased. He's not in this world any longer, but I think he would be so pleased to, hey, they're still playing my music. Not only that, they're playing it really well. That's beautiful, you know? Isn't that great? See? Well, what I bet these two did, consciously or unconsciously, but they've been studying this stuff for a long time, so I'm pretty sure it was conscious, is that in some way, as they got ready to rehearse and perform, they went to the place in the universal subjective where the spirit of Eric Satie's compositions lives. And they invited that in. And they performed his work, and they performed it note for note, but they could also compose based on his themes, and they could riff on that, interpret it, and arrange it differently, and so forth. Anything you want to do, the method and manner for doing it exists in the subconscious mind. So this is where we release our choices to. It's bad grammar, but there it is. This, you put your choice into the subconscious. You don't just release it to the wind. You're placing it deliberately in a system that is built to flesh it out in form. We release our word into law, knowing that evidence of its manifestation is now making itself clear. That's a line by Reverend Sunshine Day that was in the Science Mind magazine this month. I put it in the weekly email too. It's her gratitude into release step in a treatment that she wrote in Science Mind magazine. And I love the way she puts that about, you know, I now, something like, I now open myself to experience the evidence of the manifestation. I'm grateful for something actually happening because I've released this. You got to let go of the thing for it to move to the next level. This is true in life generally, and not just in traumatic situations. But, you know, you create something. It's got to pass through hands other than yours to be acknowledged. There's the old saying about you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you know? We have to let the ball go from our hands. We have to put the thing, we have to say what's on our mind, say what's in our hearts, and then see what happens. And we can't pull everything back in. So we have to be in the world. And to the degree that we withdraw and hold back from life, we don't get to experience the joy that we seek. We're always waiting for something to happen. Something has to be done. So I got this little story for you, because I don't want to leave us on a kind of a morbid track. Remember that for all the loss in life, The residual is love. We miss people, we care about people because we love them. We miss and care about people we don't even know because we love what they have represented. We love the sacrifices that they have made. You can read stories of people you don't know who've done heroic things, and you can get tears in your eyes because you care. You're drawing on universal subjectivity. You're drawing on unconditional love, which exists at the level of universal subjectivity. So I've had some sports stories for you this month, and this was not intended. Stuff jumped up, and it's you learn in this business. You take what you get, you know, and you can if you can make a spiritual point out of it, that's great. And some stuff just kind of lined up that way. So I gave you some basketball stories a couple of weeks ago. Last week was Simone Biles. And if you haven't watched that video of that gymnastics routine, my gosh, please do. I got a story for you today. Has to do with release. Has to do with bowling. Bowling. I'm not a bowler, but I was reading about this. And there's a thing in bowling called the 7-10 split. Have you ever heard of the 7-10 split? Okay. The 7-10 split, without being all tedious about bowling, the 7-10 split is that, you know, you get two shots, and if you knock all the pins down on the first one, it's called a strike, and if you knock all the pins down, if you knock some of them down the first roll and the rest of them the second roll, it's called a spare, and scores are kept on and on. Well, if you roll the ball the first time and you knock all of them down but two, and the two that are still standing are on opposite sides of the lane, in other words, the back legs of the triangle of the pins as they're set up, that's called a 7-10 split because all the pins are numbered. Well, the 7-10 split is right up there with like the most difficult things to do in sport. I don't know that it rises to the level of what Simone Biles did, but it's one of the most difficult things to do because, can you picture this? You're probably already watching the video I'm talking about, but you have to roll the ball down one side of the lane so that it clips the pin over here and causes that pin to fly directly sideways all the way across the lane to take out the other pin. You can practice this, I'd assume, for years and not get it because it's a thing. So the other day, well, it's been a month, I guess now, a guy did this. The chances of making a 7-10 split are 0.7% out of a row, okay? Guy did this in competition, in national competition. Only the fourth time in national competition in history that this has been accomplished. Well, whenever I hear stories like this, I'm like, what I want to know, what I bring to the table as a metaphysician is I want to know what was going through this person's mind, you know? And what I always expect to hear and hope to hear so I can bring it to you is that this person, this bowler, you know, stood there and said, I can do this. I know it's a long shot, but I can do this because there's one life, and that life is God, and that life is all the life there is, and that life is this ball in my hand and those pins on that lane and so on, right? Except that's not what this person did. When interviewed, they were asked, did you think you could make it? And they're like, no. No. I thought, this is hopeless. They had the same thought that every other bowler apparently has ever had when facing a 7-10 split is like, well, just mark this one down as no. I'm going to throw the ball just because I got to move things along, but this is not going to happen. But it did. And so I thought, isn't that interesting? And then I thought, yeah, okay, well, this is what happens. This is how it works. And this is why I'm telling you this story. You build up the faith so that when faced with a situation where you say, as any human would, this is absolutely hopeless, you go to muscle memory. You go to the experience of practice and practice and practice that you've built up. Because we're human and we get scared and we get doubtful. We doubt our own ability. We can even doubt the existence of this power. It's all right to shake your fist at God. You know? It's all right to lose your faith. But if you have enough faith built up in store, it will kick in like a hybrid engine. You know? Something else, a new gear will find you. And that's what this man did in his sport. Not a big heroic achievement, but it made the news. It made me think. Maybe it's making you think. If you're facing a situation that looks hopeless in your life, looks like it has a less than 1% chance of working out, and you can't figure out how to make it work, where to find the strength, you've built up the strength. It's in you, dormant right now, but waiting to step to the front. That's release. You let it go. You trust. You build up the trust through repeated experiences. The people that you have in your life that you trust, you don't trust them because they just showed up. If you're a happy, friendly kind of person, you like them until you don't, until you have some reason not to or whatever. But the people that you really trust in your life, that's through repeated experience. They do what they say they're going to do. They keep, you've kept showing up to have that relationship with them, to have that communication with them. You've built up the faith. What I want to leave you with is this, and I implore you, I beg you, with every ounce of my being, this is what I do. Try this spiritual practice called spiritual mind treatment. Recognize that there is one life. Call it whatever you want. And we're not going to split hairs over, I don't have enough to spare, so we're not going to split hairs over, over what to call it. Is it God? Is it spirit? Is it nature? Is it the universe? It doesn't matter what you call it. It only matters that you call it, right? It only matters that you call it. Call it. Call it your own. And secondly, unify yourself with it, identify yourself with it, and say, since there's one life, hello, that life must be my life also. Were it not, there'd be 2 or 3 or 500. But there's one life, and that life is my life. And because those first 2 things are true, I can speak my word to conditions and declare and decree a certain thing. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee, and the light shall shine upon all thy ways. I think that's from Job, Job's story. So I realize, I affirm, I declare, all of that happening in that third step. Then a feeling of gratitude washes over me, a feeling of yes, a feeling of thanks that my good is at hand. I don't see it yet, but it's at hand. It's in the mail, so to speak. It's out for delivery. But I already feel like I have it. And then I release it all. I call it done. And I go back to normal operations. I resume ordinary consciousness. Now, at the end of this, I implore you to try this. I know to my sadness, people who've been made aware of this in this teaching, had classes, read books, and they think, and I was one of these people. If I ever need spiritual mind treatment, I know where to find it. It's like in case of emergency, break glass. No, do this every day. Do this every day. So that when life hands you change, which it will, it absolutely will, when you're facing the old fabled 7-10 split of this appears to be hopeless, I have no idea how to work around this, I have no idea how I'm even going to survive this, you have spiritual muscle memory that you can go to. That you say these things and you feel these things, and I promise you, and I can find an army of people who will join me in promising you, it works. It works. Because we've been doing it, all of us together, a very long time. And you find it more and more, language differently, in faith traditions across the world. So next month, which starts next Sunday, We're going to go into a series on healed, whole, and holy, which is about the application of these principles and the use of spiritual mind treatment in specific areas of life. The final Sunday of the month, the Reverend David Dewhurst will be speaking. And that just saying his name and that he's speaking brings a smile. Because if you've not heard him speak, and I don't know that we've had him speak here in the 15 months that we've been unpeopled on Sundays, but he is on every day on Facebook Live doing a reading from Science Mind magazine. If you've not heard him, you're going to love him. So he's on the last Sunday of June. So then you have me. After that, you have me and others, and off we go into the wild blue yonder. So I wish you happy Memorial Day. Sounds odd. I wish you a happy holiday weekend. And as we're always being reminded, you know, amidst the barbecues and the family gatherings and everything else, take time, 3 o'clock tomorrow, local time, wherever you are, because you're in multiple time zones watching this, and in Canada and in Jamaica, 3 o'clock tomorrow, take a minute, stop what you're doing, and say thank you to those who've served and those who passed in service, all right? Okay, Reverend Lisa will have a treatment here for you momentarily, but first, some more music.
It does sound a bit weird to say Happy Memorial Day, but here's my thought on that. Because I am a military brat. My dad served in the Air Force. And I'm married to a veteran of the Navy. The point of celebrating Memorial Day and celebrating is because they preserved for us the freedom to do that. So there's that. And just in case there are 3 days to celebrate, 3 days set aside to celebrate the military, although we do it all the time. Armed Forces Day is for those still in the uniform. Veterans Day is for those who have served and retired from the military. And then Memorial Day is for those who never left the uniform. And I know you can hear it in my voice. I am a brat in more ways than one, because I can hear my husband right now going, yeah, she's a brat. Because I grew up on and around military bases. And the symbol for military brats is the dandelion. So think about that for a minute. You want to talk about the ultimate form of release. And the ability to grow through anything and anywhere. Because we've developed the muscle memory to do that. So now I'm going to show you the other muscle memory that I have. And I'm going to know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. I'm a part of that love. That love flows through me, in me, as me. I am a walking manifestation of that love. You are a walking manifestation of that love. That same love flows through each and every one of us. And so I speak my word now in that love. That each and every being knows that love, feels that love, allows that love to flow through them. That love flows through them to a purpose. A purpose known only to the one, but a purpose nonetheless. And as it flows through, it does amazing things of clearing, of healing, of making whole. And so I know this love. And I know this love as you. And I'm grateful for this love. Because gratitude is simply another word for love. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this love. I'm grateful for these people. I'm grateful for this place. I am grateful for those who have served in every capacity. I am grateful for those who made the sacrifice. And I'm grateful for those who continue to make the sacrifice. Until such time as the sacrifice is no longer necessary. And I release this. And I release this into what? I release this into love. Knowing that it is done. And it is done in ways that even I could not imagine. Because I'm releasing it into something bigger. I'm releasing it into something whole. I'm releasing it into something loving. And I know that it is so, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me. I feel it in my body. I feel it in my mind. I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. And so it is.